Introducing the official Werx coffee in 3 bold flavors. Fog Navigator, the master of mornings, chocolate and apricot. Texas Pecan, Lone Star Luxury, pecan and cocoa. House Decaf, full flavor, no buzz, smoky dark chocolate. 3 bold new flavors now available at monkeywerxus.com/shop or scan the QR code on screen now.
All right. Hey, good morning, folks. It's going to be your sit rep. It is 11 a.m. Central Time coming to you live from the Monkey Lounge here in the great state of Texas. 9/18/2023. And what is going on around the world? We got a lot of things that I think are just the calm before a massive storm. We're going to take a closer look at what's happening over in Taiwan. China is on the move. We've had some of our cronies get over there and have some chats with them. And then there's something going on in Russia. We're going to look closer at it again because we had this massive evacuation aspect, and then we saw nothing out of the Ruskies, so to speak. So we're going to look closer at that. And then the other piece, too, that I think is quite fascinating is this weather deal. I'm going to show you some things that just kind of make you scratch your head and wonder what is going on with the latest hurricane in Lee. Some just strange data for you. So buckle up. We're going to get started right now as we get into this. Jumping over here to Skyglass, as always. As you'll notice, we're looking at currently air refuelers. Notice the center of the United States is always about this time of morning starting to kick up. We've got the ones that run down here along our southern border in Texas, particularly this side, I do find interesting. A couple headed westbound up the eastern seaboard, as always. We'll take these guys out. And actually, not completely out. Let's just turn them off. And then notice I've already taken out the trainers, 44 Tex 2s and 18 T38. So we're like running roughly 60, 65 trainers currently up. And this is, let's see, total count, 190 if we take the trainers out. Got a lot of stuff kind of moving around. We have a couple we're going to look at very closely. Shark 99 appears to be headed, it's a C-130, looks to be headed to Guantanamo Bay. And don't lose sight of this C-2015 as well. Those are typical. Shark 67 was one of the call signs we saw go in and out. You won't see it on the board. You just have to kind of catch it. So there does seem to be some movement going on down at the spa. We'll look closer at that here in just a second. So let's get on over here to this side. We're looking at our watch list. Just notice we do have a lot of survey flights up. We'll take them on and off here and turn them off completely. That's going to be your surveys right there and survey only. But we've got a lot of Graybeard, which are agency birds that are on the move. We'll look closer at them too. But they seem to be very active right now, which tells me there's something about to go down. Okay. All right. A couple P8s off of Florida. Really not too much to look at, even though there are a lot of our watch list up. They look to be headed again. Those are your Graybeards. That's Phoenix Air, and they are very, very integrated with the agencies. If you know what I'm saying, they fly their guys around quite a bit. So when you see them very active around the world, then you know there is definitely something going down, okay? All right, then we get over to Europe, and just the German balloons, it looks like some German aircraft that are up and about. Nothing really to speak of. And even that one looks to be a German bird. And we get down here. This is going to be just one of your drones that we always see over Turkey, okay? All right, and then don't lose sight of this little guy right here. This is going to be Weather Modification LLC. Yeah, it's continuing to make the big bucks over Saudi. And that looks to be right over the center there near Mecca. Looks like they're just making that place. They want to make it into some type of a tropical, I don't know, paradise, so to speak. With all that rain, I'm sure they're planning a lot of stuff. Intel birds, the usual suspects up near Kaliningrad, near Moldova, near Israel. But then this one goes into Tajikistan, and I probably just mispronounced that, but I gave it good old college try. And that looks to be where our latest Intel aircraft is headed. So there's something going on in that region that we want eyes on. And again, Jordan's looking very closely at the West Bank area there on their border. All right, let's talk surveys for a second. It has, like I said, we're over 30,000 for the year. Insane and unprecedented. That's Poznan. That's going to be our military base. It looks like they are looking at stuff headed towards Kaliningrad region out of Poland. And then little tiny one there near Warsaw. We've got the other stuff near Belgium and Netherlands as always. Looks like a transition from Sweden to Finland. And then this over the water. Yeah, remember that's Libya just to the south of that location that just got hit with all the rain, but has nothing to do with the surveys. So anyway, Australia down under, and just notice it's up, to the north, down to the eastern coast, down swinging south, and then over near Perth. Same spots they've always been. I think they're actually sharpening their pencils here. I think the AI has taken the data, and I said the word, I meant Alpha Indigo has taken the data. They've gone through and they're polishing the data. That's what it looks like to me. Areas that they didn't get really good, clean data on, they're going back over, and they'll go over and over until they've got a picture that is like an art on canvas. Okay. Remember, these are 3D creations that these LiDAR aircraft are creating or looking at, right? They're making that. And then Florida's settled down a little. Texas, yes. Yep. Look at that long run between DFW. And then out here, it looks like a transition there. Southern Cal settled in a little, but other areas have picked up. The Dakotas and down south towards Oklahoma seem to be kind of back on the uptick. Northeast again. Like I said, I think they're polishing the data. And then a little bit of stuff over Canada. And you'll see way off in the distance, I won't get into that area, but over Hawaii, it looks like they've got a little bit of stuff going on there too. Okay. But it's over the far western islands of Hawaii. All right, let's look at Graybeards. It's going to be your Phoenix Air guys. Notice a transition out of Iceland. Broken trace going in or out. Now, the interesting piece to that is, remember, Iceland is the location for the Navy P-8s, who also do a lot of ops. All right, and then notice it went in. Looks like the Stuttgart. But we've got a real faint line, very hard to see, that looks to be headed into Romania. So what are they up to over there? Don't know. But nothing over the Middle East, nothing over Africa. And then we get over here to the United States. And you'll see this one kind of transitioning. Looks like a broken trace headed westbound. All right. We'll pop over to Asia just to see if it landed anywhere. But again, eyes on Asia. There's definitely something going on. I say Asia, eyes on Taiwan and China. There's definitely something afoot right now. And we'll have to keep our eyes closely on that, okay? Now, this is going to be your sub-hunters. And, well, I say sub-hunters. Evidently, I did not. Let's see. There we go. This will be your sub-hunters. Broken trace coming out of Washington State. And then off the East Coast, up the eastern seaboard. That could be some moves because of the storm that came in, kind of going inland. Broken traces, that's probably it that connects the dot to Hawaii. And then, again, sub-hunters, right? So big one here, not so much the U.S., other than maybe it gives us some idea of what they're worrying about. But then you get over here to Europe. Notice the North Sea area up off of UK, off of Norway, out over the water, Norwegian Sea, looking for something, talking to something, and then a broken trace towards Russia. And then you notice the one there off of Portugal, kind of broken traces there. But look at this path that's between down into the Middle East, UAE area, Qatar, and then back up into what looks to be Crete. But back and forth over over Turkey, over all of that. Kind of a weird pattern, but very back and forth. And then you've got this one looks to be landing in Japan. Yeah, you typically expect to see them there between that and Okinawa. And then one headed down into Australia. Okay, that's going to be your subs. Now let's talk weather for a second. And you're going to see, we'll come back to the one Graybeard that's headed down to Guantanamo Bay here in just a minute. But this is going to be NOAA. Notice a broken trace headed up towards Alaska. Why broken? Why did they kill the transponder, right? Where we can't see it. They just changed over to different mode. And then this kind of little swirl over Texas, Austin kind of area, down a little further central Texas, the hill country. Probably just got a lot of rain down there if I had to guess. And then look at this back and forth piece right where the hurricane ended up going. All right. Now we're going to talk a little more about that. So let me start getting into that aspect. I'm going to go dark here for a second. We're going to talk a little bit about, let's see if this
P3,
NOAA
P3. My guess is that this is probably going to be the hit area in terms of the hurricane, somewhere right around here, just based on that flight alone. But why would you take that flight out and wipe it? Okay, it doesn't make any sense to me, right?
All right. Now, what that was me talking before the hurricane came in, a day before the hurricane hit. All right. That was a playback that I highlighted a NOAA flight that was in that general region. Now, check this out. So we show you this.
P3, NOAA P3. My guess is that this is probably going to be the...
Remember that location. We're going to come back to it. Now, check out this chatter mark right here. This is off the radar as it comes into that general area. Look at this saw blade looking chatter. All right. See it coming in as the hurricane approaches that same area. All right. Just a little bit, a skosh to the north of that. All right. See that chatter? All right. What is that all about? Okay. Now, we got the chatter. I showed you the NOAA flight that was to the west of that. And now look at the NOTAM. Let me show you this. That's where we're looking at right there. That's where the NOAA flight was. All right. That is a danger area that went into place on September 12th until the 20th. So it goes a couple more days, but that's a danger area. All right. Now that happened to hit. Now let's look at the path where Lee went to, and you'll see this is where the NOAA flight was. This is where the danger area was, and look at what steered right in between the two. All right, and then it went off to the distance there. So that is the flight path. Again, this is where NOAA, this is where the danger area is. Remember, the chatter marks were right here as it came through on the radar. All right. So again, that's just something to think about. I'm just telling you, something's not adding up. When you see the chatter look like saw blade cuts along the weather front there to an area that was a danger area, it tells me they had some type of microwave or something pushing that thing one direction, the NOAA bird over on the other side. And I said, this is where I believe this is going to hit when I saw the P3 doing some weird stuff that then they wiped the flight. It didn't show up on any of my historical data. Flight was not there. So why, I would ask you, unless you're trying to hide something. It's the only reason you take that stuff away, all right? Okay, so that's the NOAA aspect of it. Let's get into the news cycle because this is where it starts to get kind of dodgy and interesting, to say the least. We'll jump over here. The NOTAMs we'll come back to here in just a minute, but the main thing was just to show you all the other stuff that's going on around the world. But we'll get back to this, okay? Here we go. Flashbang schedule. I got to flip this thing one time. It's going to come in. It is today. It looks like he is participating in a campaign reception. Now, this is interesting because that's tonight. Like I said, I don't think this guy's going to run. Just based on the intel that I heard coming from this particular person. So we'll see what happens. I don't think there's going to be an election when we get there. I think they're going to do something to just completely freeze it and lock it up. But I don't think this guy's going to be sitting in that seat. I think somebody else is going to be in there. Okay. All right. Moving on. Now, this one trips you out. Okay. You're talking to somebody that came off the F-35 program, spent a long time on it. And the U.S. military is asking for help trying to find its lost stealth jet. Now, this pilot was flying around Charleston area Sunday afternoon when he ejected because he had a mishap. They haven't really gone into the details of what that mishap was, but after he ejected, the aircraft was on autopilot and decided to just go on wherever it was going on. Now, this just sounds really fishy, almost like the movie Firefox, right, where they steal an aircraft that had all kinds of cool stuff on it. But nowadays, you just basically hack that autopilot. You think it's not possible, but I will tell you, it's definitely possible. And if you use AI to crack something, that thing could take over an aircraft and fly it wherever it wants to. That is going to be the big thing. I did it again. I said the word. Anyway, nonetheless, here it is. Joint Base Charleston says, this is Beaufort, South Carolina, MCAS. That is a location for F-35s. It's one of the bases there. They are working to locate an F-35 that was involved in a mishap this afternoon. The pilot ejected safely. If you have any information that may help the recovery teams locate this F-35, please call base ops. And there's the number. So that is the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen for an F-35 to just disappear. They still haven't found it to my knowledge. So anyway, maybe it's out in the sea, just ran out of fuel and ottered in. But listen, they got ways to locate those things. So for it to just go off radar completely is very, very strange. All right, here we go. Next one up. UK Health Agency closely monitoring deadly virus in India has up to a 75% fatality rate. This is nutso. I will tell you, if that gets out of control and they don't contain it, that could be very bad for everybody. Okay. Now, the reason I say that is because Ebola, for example, that's like a 50-50 shot, right? 75%. I mean, you got a 25% chance you ain't going to make it. So actually 25% you are going to make it. 75% you ain't going to make it. There we go. Due to quick maths on the fly like that. It's Monday and I apologize. So anyway, that's where we go from there. And then let's bump on over to this piece. Italy's PM Meloni basically despairs at illegal migrant surge, warns future of Europe is at stake. Yeah, they're coming in droves. Where have we seen that before? Well, let's go over here to the Great Reset. And you may see my little arrow right here as I point. What does that say? On the plan, involuntary migration. So that is something that we are seeing on the uptick. The dots that you see on this whenever I show it, it's basically what it's telling you is that this is their opportunity platform. Okay, so whenever one of these things happen, they make their big push to advance their plan. So there's the first one, right? This one here, extreme weather. We're starting to see that. We have been seeing it. What just happened in Libya? Absolutely off the chain, out of the normal area. But that one right there kind of dovetails into what we were talking about relative to the migrant push and why we're seeing it. Okay. All right. Now, this is the other piece. Taiwan detects 103 Chinese warplanes around their island. Not just that, they had vessels. It looked like a massive push. And so the reason this is important, and this is the area that they're talking about, this becomes important because we just had somebody from our administration pop over there to talk to China, probably about this. My guess in looking at this, remember, we are not leaving assets in play in the region. We're taking it. In fact, we're moving it over to Europe. We're leaving just enough behind in case North Korea goes rogue. Okay. That's the only reason we have it. We have no intention on fighting China over there. You can tell just because we don't have the assets in place to fight them. China knows this. More than likely, we've done some kind of a plea deal with them. Hey, listen, we still need superconductor chips. If you don't hose us, we won't object to you taking, Taiwan. So eyes on this. It looks like China is potentially making a move. Could maybe not be too far out. All right. Again, part of that massive storm that's brewing. And then here, China's National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, meets with the Chinese Foreign Ministry guy. All right. And I think this is probably because of what's going on there relative to Taiwan. All right. Like I said, we're not fighting anything over there other than maybe North Korea. In fact, you can see based on the flights and stuff going in and out of Guam, notice you got a little Atlas Air coming out of Darwin, out of the Northern Territory in Australia. An Omni Air that kind of bumped in coming out of East Java, 767-300. Those are the only ones that caught my eye, at least from that standpoint. From there, Omni headed to Hawaii, and Atlas Air looks to be headed to Hawaii as well. So let's look at the next piece here, which is Anderson Air Force Base. Looks to be a C-130, King 39 in the region. And then Atlas Air, like I said, it's scheduled to head over to Hawaii, and then probably one coming inbound. So nothing really to see. Okay. All right. Let's look at Biggs Army Airfield. Little quiet, but this one I thought was interesting. It's coming out of Santa Rosa, California, 757-200. And then National Cargo 757-200 from in and out of Orlando. And we'll keep our eye on that. Again, there's Atlas Air rolling from Alaska, scheduled inbound. So just kind of a strange mix here as we get into it. But this is probably this National Cargo. If I had to guess, it's based out of Orlando. More than likely, it was tied to some immigrant moves in and out of Biggs Army Airfield. All right, over to Dover. And nothing really to see. I have one camera flight headed to RZE Poland, forward operating base, 747. And then looks like you got one inbound coming from JFK. That's going to be a Coletta Air. And then Ramstein, looks like they got some pretty good weather moving in. All right. But Baltimore, Washington, coming from Bangor, Maine. So 2 flights inbound to Ramstein. Notice the C-17 on here as well. Looks to be coming inbound. And then we do have a SPAR flight coming in from Terceira. This one's headed from Ramstein into RZE 747. So just kind of popping some light stuff in and out of the region. German Air Force, as we talk about this location in terms of Germany, just notice very active and busy, but notice where they're flying to, down here into Greece and into Crete. Kind of strange for Germany. We don't see them too often going in and out of those regions. And then let's look at RZE Poland. Remember, this is Ukraine right here, but it's very quiet, has been very quiet. Not seeing too much catches my eye other than this one coming in from Dover. And let's see, this headed outbound. So that Camber 747 is probably this Coletta headed outbound. But I don't see anything else catches my eye on here. Again, very light. Normally, well, I say normally. Up until about a month ago, it was crazy busy. And then it is just tapered off and we're not seeing a lot going on. But let's talk Ukraine for a minute, because this is where it gets really interesting as we get into this piece. Notice I got the arrow pointing up here. This is going to be your rhinos. Note the names. And if you live in those states, it is your duty to make sure these folks don't get reelected. Here we go. Tom Cotton out of Arkansas, Roger Wicker, and you got Susan Collins, Lindsey Graham. We all know these guys are turncoat rhinos. And but look what they're saying. They are urging the White House to send the MGM-140 Army Tactical Missile System, the ATACMS, to Ukraine. Remember, that's their long-range missile for the region. It'll hit 300 kilometers, I think it is, so about 186 miles roughly. But these guys are pushing to escalate. They're saying that I guess they're saying because Ukraine only needs a small amount after a significantly degrading Russia combat power. Don't pay any attention to what they just said on that because they're wrong. And this is, I'm telling you, if you know your Bible, Ezekiel 38, Russia is not going anywhere, right? They're in there. They're with Iran. They're with Turkey. Matter of fact, they've got a trilateral agreement they signed with them in 2017 between those three countries. They're not going anywhere. In fact, the ones that are probably going somewhere will be us. So pay close attention to that aspect of it, okay? Now, let me do this. I'm going to show you. We talked about this aspect right here, and let me take this one off. Hang on. I got to back this up because I am, there we go. All right. We talked about this one the other day. And remember, we had these evacuations that were taking place throughout here, right? This whole border region right here. It was a massive amount of evacuations that were being called for Ukrainians to get out of the region because they said they were expecting, large artillery uptick from the Russians. So look at this. This is top to bottom to the northwest of Crimea. All right, that's a water area that runs right along here, okay? And so down south here is Crimea. This is the Ukraine piece. But they evacuated all of these little villages with the premise that that was, coming, okay? So now, here's the other thing. Pay attention that that aspect of it. Let me see if for some reason... it does not want to load. I don't know what's going on with my deal here. So we'll just hit pause and see if it'll let me. All right, it's not letting me do it. Okay, so we'll just skip on that. Something going on with OBS. And here's this other piece. Now, this I thought was interesting. Notice where the strikes are, okay, as we take our little pointer here again and just show you. Right, this is the area where they were talking about. This is the area where they were talking about massive strikes coming in. Now, they have not. In fact, as this thing goes through the rotation, you'll see that there's a big gap. The area that I see a lot of strikes. See, look at this. Nothing. This is as of today. Okay, last 24 hours. That is the area that I just showed you. Notice where they are hitting. These are drone strikes into Russia. And a bunch of stuff going on down here in Crimea from the Ukrainian side of the house striking. See these right here? Drone strikes. We've got air defense missile systems here. Got some interior drone strikes. But the area that they were pointing out that was supposed to be going hot, it did not. So that tells me there's something afoot here, right? We see the agency. This is that area right here, right? Nothing. Blank. No strikes. That tells me that the intel that they're being fed is it's probably coming from the Ukraine side, in the fact that there's probably going to be some larger attacks coming by the Ukrainians in the deep state into that area. Maybe a big push. Now, if you remember back when the data was leaked about this spring offensive, one of the comments that was in there was from a Navy commander who made the point that they should split Russia into two halves in that region in terms of Crimea and the northern area where they were attacking currently with the tank. They were going to send in tanks. One would head south into Crimea. The other would head to the northern region. And then if I just see if it'll pause for a second. This is the northern side. This is the southern side. So northern and the southern. Their plan was to come in with these tanks and basically divide that area so that the Russians cut them off so they couldn't have the ability to feed back and forth and support the southern Ukraine or Crimea side of the house from an attack standpoint. So again, what they're doing with the evacuations is not adding up to what we are seeing in terms of the strikes which tells me that over on the Ukraine side, they're up to something. Okay. All right. Let's move on from that. And you got to love when your system software works the way it's supposed to. Or not. All right. Here are your camber flights. Again, this is going to be precious cargo, right? 747. We've got this one here coming out of Europe, and this one looks to be coming back to the U.S. One's coming out of League, the other is from Frankfurt. So my guess is this is probably the Frankfurt aspect here, or this one. Actually, that HHN looks to be okay. So this is the League. This is HHN. Looks to be headed down towards Bahrain, maybe Doha, that general area. Yeah, there it is, Doha. Okay. And then this is going to be your Brits. Only 3 flights up, 2 of them out of the UK, and then this one coming out of Prague. And again, looks to be UK-centric. And then this is your NATO flights. Notice the one is inbound to Virginia. You got Brussels to Richmond. And then this one coming out of Oslo and headed southbound. All right. National cargo. One out of Hong Kong. Notice these are all 747s. I don't know where that one is. Headed to Anchorage. So that's China to Anchorage. And Anchorage to, where are they headed on that one? Taipei Island. So headed to Taipei. Kind of a weird spot and location for these guys to be flying this time. So again, these guys have big military contracts. So these are charter flights, probably carrying ordnance, if I had to guess. All right. Eastern Airlines, we just look at them. Cherry Point to Yuma and moving some troops around more than likely. They have a pretty big troop carrying contract. Omni, they serve mini masters, right? So you've got, this could be tied to anything. Most of this, what it looks to be, are military contract flights. So see where they're headed, following the dots. And it looks like for once our dots actually match the flights. So, interesting. All right. Moving on. So, Kaleta Air. Key is these guys are pretty big, again, contract movers, but they do a lot of other business. Kind of just wanted to give you a flavor of where things were headed. The stuff coming in and out of Anchorage could be military-related stuff, all right? And then notice this one, LAX down to Sydney. Remember, we've been storing a lot of artillery coming out of Asia down here. So are we now boxing up some stuff and moving it out to this area? Potentially. We have definitely been building up stuff down in Australia. All right. And then this is Atlas Air. Again, notice just the ones coming in and out of Europe. And the stuff out of Asia is pretty regular items. The reason we see most of that coming across, that huge amount of 747s running back and forth, is because our supply chain is basically just hand to mouth, so to speak, right? We don't have a lot of the slow boats coming over from China. They're having to move us stuff via air, critical path stuff like pharmaceuticals, et cetera, all right? And then into the migrant machine, this is just, notice there are a lot interior flights and then a lot of exterior too. So kind of caught it in between. That one's coming out of DC. And then we go over to the other piece, Western Airlines, World Atlantic. I say Western. They haven't been around for a hot minute. But World Atlantic Airways, these guys are basically moving for the Bureau of Prisons, a lot of their flights. They were very active and busy earlier this morning, leaving the country, headed one coming out of Alexandria, but they are not on the board now. So, all right, this is the Graybeard we were looking at coming out of Norfolk, headed down to Guantanamo Bay. Again, this is probably an agency flight, all right, coming down here for what? I don't know, but we just keep eyes on it. Could be, remember the prisoner swap, all right? Could be related to that. I'll tell you, there are a lot more folks down here at the spa than we know about. All right. So, again, anytime you start to see a little uptick going on here, we need to pay attention because that means something is happening abroad. All right. And anyway, maybe even domestically for that matter. But all right, listen, that's going to do it for Sit Rep today. I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your evening or day, whatever it may be, because some of you are going to be watching this later. And we will continue to watch what's going on in Ukraine, as well as what's happening in Taiwan. I think there's two things that are about to pop just based on what we're seeing traffic-wise. There is a ton of agency movement happening right now. So anytime those guys are busy, you know there's something happening out there that we don't have eyes on, okay? So, all right, that's it. You guys be safe. Keep that powder dry. Stay frosty. God bless. Monkey out. Thanks for watching, folks. Check out the latest gear and products over at monkeywerxus.com.